Hi, Charlotte. So thanks for taking part in the testimonial video for the coach training course, which you've been doing. Tell me about you and your work with young people.
Okay, so a little bit about my background. So I started my career working in youth justice, so supporting young people and their families, and then I moved on to working as a school family worker, and then I trained as a yoga and mindfulness practitioner for children, and then I specialised in that for autism and ADHD. And then my career's progressed to working as a mentor and coach within schools and community settings, specifically with neurodivergent children and young people.
What brought you to this course and what made you decide to do it?
So I had already started working in schools, mentoring, and then sort of tapping into some of those coaching skills as well with young people. I know I'd already started implementing those factors like into the sessions, but I wanted to learn more about it.
I think one of the problems is people don't know what coaching is and how it can help young people. So,
Yeah, and I think like I'd also like wanted to kind of really understand the difference between mentoring and coaching. And I've learned a lot about that and how they can be kind of interchangeable sometimes. But as a practitioner, being aware when I'm mentoring and when I'm coaching, what the difference is.
from your own experience now, what do you feel is the difference?
So I think so as a practitioner, I think I notice when I'm mentoring is so with mentoring you might be using more like lived experiences as well and kind of factoring that into there if the young person wants to talk about those sorts of things. You're coming from a sort of lived experience and having conversation, whereas coaching we're looking more at just see what I always the way I describe it is like look at what's working well and what you would hope to be better and have a bit more structure to it and looking at goal setting and maybe like barriers to reaching goals and with something in mind, whereas mentoring could and I do feel like sometimes that can be very interchangeable if you're working with a young person. Sometimes my work's maybe a little bit longer than coaching would be. And
Mhm.
that's when I notice it depends because schools will ask me to work with young people for they might ask me to continue working with a young person. So we might have reached that initial goal, and then perhaps I'm there as a mentor to check in with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the coaching would help the young person to figure out what their goal is, and then you would kind of identify the barriers to them achieving that goal, which might require more coaching,
Yes.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but if it's more practical stuff, like they just don't know, then that's more mentoring.
Yeah, absolutely. And that might come up in the sessions too. So you've got the practical element of then reaching the goal. It's very interesting. To see how you use all of those skills. And also, I think what I really enjoy about the work that I do is I have been in previous roles where there's an emphasis on outcome. And so, what I love about coaching is you just meet the young person where they are and support them to find out what's important to them.
Then that helps them find their own outcome, right?
They find their own outcome, and it might even be the same as the adults around them, maybe. But I like that we're meeting them there and we're working on what it's important to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it helps them probably more than having to fit somebody else's agenda or somebody else's outcome for whatever reason.
Yeah, it could. And also, I always say that actually, maybe the outcome looks completely different to how any of us thought it might, but that can be really positive too.
Yeah, or even better.
Even better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we don't know until we go on that journey, but that's what coaching's about. And so we're not, looking at obviously you're aware of things that are going on, whether that's a young person's attendance or whatever it is. Of course, there's an awareness there, but actually it's kind of getting rid of all the noise and just meeting that young person where they are, find out where they are and what they want and start the journey there. And then it will take you along.
Yeah, what's coming to my mind is
Yeah.
thinking about the fact that they're neurodivergent and have special needs, a lot of the young people that you work with. Do you think there's something to do with the fact that they have those needs that other people assume that they know better than the individual young person what they need? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think as adults and practitioners, and it comes from a really authentic place of caring for that young person, and there may be worries that come up and think, oh, but perhaps they should be doing this, and are they okay if they don't that? Maybe around socializing or accessing stuff. But actually, like, it's okay. Like, we can listen to the young person and give them some sort of, I guess, some autonomy over what they want. Obviously, if they really desperately want to join in something and feel like there's barriers, and we can support them and coach them through that, of course. But sometimes, it's about listening, and are they happy in that situation that they're in, and maybe they don't want to go and join that group, and that's okay, or they're happy to
Mm.
in
So
them.
the adults around them are sort of seeing the world through a neurotypical lens and assuming that that child is not happy because they've got no friends or they've got one friend or something like that. But actually, that young person is like, I'm quite happy with my one friend and my.
Or or maybe sometimes it's like trying new things, and of course, if they want to try new things, and I'm not saying we don't support them to do that, and there might be some comfort zone stuff in there too,
Mhm.
if they've got an interest, and that's what brings them joy, and that's the language that I use in my sessions. And what brings you joy, let's talk about that. And there's something very yeah, what a lovely time to spend coming out. And I work mostly in schools, coming out and speaking to someone about your interests and how that makes you feel, and maybe finding some more space to integrate those interests into the school day.
What did you identify were the struggles that young people were having that you thought coaching could help with?
So in schools, what I've found and have found is that schools can be really proactive in trying to understand the needs and support young people to access school. So whether that's going, obviously attending to start, attending their lessons, being able to access the lesson, maybe they'll give them things like exit cards, or talk about, you can come and talk to this adult if you need, if you need help, or this safe space. Actually, one of the first barriers might be that the young person will say, oh, okay, but in that moment they don't necessarily, maybe don't know when they need to take that.
Mm,
And that's something that they'll learn in time. But it's for young people or children, if we're talking about primary school, they might not yet be able to identify when to take a break, or actually they feel comfortable in that lesson showing the exit card, but maybe there's something just about that teacher they haven't built trust yet. So actually a big part of it has been talking about what trust means and building trust with adults in school, not just attending school, but feeling safe in school would be more of a priority for me.
mhm,
Maybe the lower attendance, but feeling safe when you're there, as
mhm,
you look at it as a longer term. Does that make sense?
mhm. Yeah.
Better to be there for a shorter time and feel safe and build upon it to full attendance. Of course, I'm fully supporting that transition of full attendance, than be at home. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, because the timeout card is it's like a sticking plaster. And you feel like you're doing something practical, or the teacher might feel that they're doing something practical to help the young person. It's a tangible thing. I can touch a timeout card. But like you say, if the young person's not self-aware enough to understand when they're becoming dysregulated, or when the appropriate use of that is, or that they're embarrassed to use it, or all the other things, it's not going to be an effective intervention, is it?
yeah, absolutely. And even going to speak to a particular member of staff, again, all the best intentions, but maybe they don't, for whatever reason, they don't want to go and talk to that member of staff, or they actually don't like the reflection room, or wherever it is. So it's about being having those very open, private conversations in coaching, and talking about, is that barrier, and how can we overcome that, and work towards that.
And it's the asking the questions, I suppose. Like,
Mm.
I don't think outside of the coaching approach, potentially, is we're not, young people don't get the space to feel safe enough to feel heard and then be asked the questions that help them find those answers. Because like you said, they don't know what they don't know.
And also, there's an element of masking and, okay, thank you, but actually, I'm never going to use this. Thank you.
They're like, oh, people pleasing, and
Yeah.
okay, I don't even know what this thing is. I don't get it. Like, yes, totally.
When you start going to secondary school and there's like teen years, it's very, of course, it's part of development to start looking around you, comparing yourself to others. That can be confusing. Because you think, oh, okay, well, I have a diagnosis of ADHD, that person does, we're not the same. And that's,
Yes.
hey, we're all different. Like, we're all different, you know,
Yeah.
needs are different. And so they might not necessarily relate, or it's not a, it needs to be more, well, through coaching, you can identify what works for that young person rather than what, say, what would work for, say, oh, that can't work for everyone, can it? So you're getting into those finer details.
What have you noticed then has changed for the young people that you've been coaching or working with because of the process of coaching?
Yeah, I think what I also really in every coaching session is I'm very aware of those positive psychology skills in terms of like identifying strengths, and that's something that I've read up a lot on as well outside of the course, and doing the strengths based questionnaires and just having those in mind and kind of helping the young people reflect on things they're doing that are showing their personal strengths
Hmm.
around self-esteem and self-talk. So I'd say that I can see positive changes in time where they feel maybe more comfortable to talk about personal strengths, or also able to identify personal strengths and have that self-acceptance as well, and their needs. There's some self-advocacy skills that are being developed there as well over time, where they can start, hopefully, if they feel safe. Again, this is very specific to school. I do work in other settings as well, but asking for help and being able to sort of have their needs met.
What changes have you made then to your practice since you've done the coach training course?
I think that we discussed during, like, when I was writing up my sessions for the qualification, is that because of previous roles I've done of, say, assessing like risk and things like that, it's very much in my role of like my mind and practice of analysing, possibly over analysing, and then trying to like problem solve. And I really am starting to let go of that now and just meet the young person and just see where it takes us, still with a structure, especially if we're goal setting, but it's looking at maybe the outcomes are different to where we started. So I don't know if it is, for example, that school are worried about attendance. Maybe the attendance doesn't increase that much, but the young person, again, feels safe in school, their self-esteem, they're able to reflect on strengths. These are all amazing outcomes for that young person. And I feel like I've just relaxed into that a bit more. And I can really see how young people are meeting goals that we hadn't even considered when we first looked at the referral.
Like the solution focused approach that we use is look for what's working and do more of it rather than focus on all the problems.
Also, young people being able to reflect their strengths just brings me joy. Saying that they're like proud of themselves. I think one young person said that they were proud of themselves for like coming in to school and going to a lesson they found, but to have that language when
I am proud of myself. Yeah.
I mean, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Because we're proud of them every day, aren't we? But to be proud of yourself and to think, actually, I have worked really hard.
Do you know what else I want to say about resilience?
Go on.
Changing topics is resilient people get resilience wrong and they think it's all about being within the individual, right? And that you have to be resilient and stand strong in the face of the storm or bounce back but actually you've mentioned this a lot. Resilience is about the ability to ask for help and the ability to say I can't do this on my own, it's too hard, and reach out to your support networks. And I think that's a underestimated part of resilience, or people
Yeah,
don't realize that. What do you think?
it's really important. And I think that, again, have conversations around accessing support that is available, but maybe they just don't feel like they can, or they don't want to at this stage, or it feels too difficult, or they wonder what people will think as well about accessing support and asking for help. Um, and then giving them space to say, like, I suppose, and sometimes that's where the mentoring comes in.
That inability to ask for help means they go into themselves and they sort of find their own coping strategy of avoiding the thing because it feels so awful. And then that's how they end up absent for a long time.
Absolutely. And it's about, early intervention is key right here. So it's just, again, working together and figuring out maybe different behaviours of, you know, are they late to lessons? Are they avoiding this? Are they not here on a certain day? And maybe, and I suppose that's where my kind of more of the analysing, the problem solving might go. But in the sessions, then it's just figuring out what's going on for that young person.
Mm, yeah. And asking the young person what their experience of that is or what might be going on for them.
Yeah. And also, like, I think we're just saying that actually it's okay if you can't do it. It's okay. It's okay if you can't. Like, some young people push themselves so much because they think they have to do everything. And it's okay if you say, do you know what? Why don't we just take one period out of your day where you go and take a break? That's all right.
Mm.
Yes, that young person or your friend does that, but that's them. This is you. If you feel like, you know, and it's helping them understand that it's okay to access support.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a bit of quite a lot of theme of comparison. And I, like you've said earlier, like that seems to be a generic adolescent development stage
Yeah,
thing, isn't it?
yeah,
Combined with the fact that your young people have got additional needs that
yeah.
make them different. Well, we're all different, but do you know what I mean? That add an extra layer of complexity.
They're navigating a lot, and even, they're of an age where they're going to be aware of the news, for example. They might have access, well, they'll have access to the internet, won't they, as a teenager? And you come across all sorts of misinformation. And actually, that's what I love about my job, is just being able to be there just for young people to talk about these things if they want to.
Mm.
As a practitioner, I think I'm quite different.
What's different for you then?
In a positive way. I understand coaching more, and I feel more confident talking about it and the benefits to schools. I can see where I'm coaching or where I'm mentoring and what the benefits are. I guess noticing when young people are reaching their own personal goals and being able to reflect that back on them rather than being kind of burdened with some big outcome. Celebrating small wins, which are huge.
Yeah.
Not small at all, they're huge.
Your confidence of the process and the intervention as an effective way of working.
It's this confidence in coaching, because I fully, I believe in it. I've seen it, that's the difference. And it's, yeah, it makes things even more enjoyable, really.